Welcome to my big art experiment, the first in this series as I try a new medium each month and try to master it. Hi, I'm Sean, an illustrator based in Goa, and this month is all about Sketchpens. For the first session, we will do a still life study of this beautiful anthurium that a friend of mine gifted me actually. I don't think I have a green thumb, but this plant has bloomed and continues to survive, and I'm grateful for that. This is in front of my work desk presently, and it was the first thing I thought while picking a subject. So I placed it in front of me, I observed all the leaves and the directions of them, and first started out with a simple line drawing of a few leaves. While coloring this leaf, I realized that there is a shadow that forms because of the lower leaf touching it from below. So we try to get that effect in. So I'm going to move on to the next one below that leaf, and again start coloring it in one direction. Note, always paint, whichever medium you use. Unless you want a very textured piece, I would suggest that you always paint in one direction, whether it's watercolor or it is sketch pens. Try to keep your lines moving in one particular direction when you're painting in. Okay, I'm gonna draw the other flowers and also the other leaves just as outlines right now. Gonna try and see whether it helps my process. Please feel free to draw with pencils first. Okay, draw out your subject in pencils, correct the shape, erase it to make it really light, and then you can go ahead and start coloring it in. Okay, I'm just winging it, and I've just dived deep into this ocean of this particular subject. Yeah, so gonna draw out all of the individual leaves from the direction that I'm seeing it. Also, I put in the picture of the particular piece in the corner. Okay, we're gonna use this green and this green. Okay, let's start from the top. I'm going to paint it in the direction that, and then if I need to do shadow, I'm just gonna do another coat of it, right? So I get that shadow and a little bit over here for the shadow effect, right? A little bit in the center portion. So we'll use this portions, this to create a shadow. Okay, now let's do this one. So I'm going to first just lightly go over everything. Then I'm going to do the second portion, which is the darker portion. Now you can go ahead and create the veins also in this. If you just go over it twice, it will automatically become a darker shade. That's even true for watercolor. Okay, you can do one color light coat, and if you take the same color and repaint it, it will give you a darker coat. If you do need it, you can probably just use the thinner. I'm using the thinner line to slowly guide it. Over here, it's a little bit of a shadow, so I'm just gonna outline that, create a little bit of a depth. And because it's so drastic, I'm gonna add this to this portion. Okay. The key, I guess, for any of this layering is having a thick enough paper that can allow you to do multiple coats without it tearing out the paper. Now for this one, it's really light on the top, so we'll just do one coat. Okay, and then there's this coat, but and then when you come here, it's a little darker, right? But this portion, like the curve, this part it gets darker. So again we'll go into it, and then this bends to that bit. So all of this is folded in, so it will automatically have shadow. Okay, this and this portion, with just 2 strokes, and over here. Okay, and yeah. Now this leaf is not entirely done because it's wild. You can slowly cover up the wild. To create more of a curve, I would add just a little touch of this inside at the bottom. I'm using the finest part of this pen. Just okay, now if you want to create this as an overlap, even though it's not there in mine, but you see how if I just draw this line over here, you see this little line, just adding this line in and shading it automatically shows the direction that it is tilting in. The leaf is tilting. Okay, so yeah, we can go through all of them, just creating this. I'm going to let you decide on how you want to do the base coat. Now you see I've done diagonal lines across the whole thing. Okay, now I'm going to create the shadow, but I'm going to create the veins. So I'm going to leave a thin line at the edge to create, because it has that kind of, okay, and then I'm going to, now this becomes one vein of mine, and this becomes my central vein, and there's nothing else. I have 2 veins, so I'm going to create a second vein. I should have started that from the base, but I didn't. Making this my central vein, and then one common vein here. Okay, now I did this one coat, and now I'll do this as this. Okay, so you see how I created my veins. Now remember what I did. I'm going to use the same technique. I'm going to create a line next to the vein, right, so that to create the shadow and the fold, and just emphasize it a little bit because it's a lot of shadow. Now here you can play off this shadow coming down from here, so you can create it that way. Okay, just always look for your darkest portions. The main point is to look for your shadow areas. That creates depth in any drawing that you do. You see how it's come into a 3D effect. Now if you feel it's too much, just go one coat on top of it, so it automatically gets lighter. And of course the veins aren't as thick as I made them out to be, so you can always go in and smoothen it out. Now let's do this big one. All of the pieces have a slight soft green at the edge, and I'm just doing one rough outlining of the veins. Okay, so now I know I will follow this, right? I'll create my vein on the other side. So my vein comes down here. It went thick. It's okay, you can. But it gets thicker from the center portion, and then it spreads out, right? Even over here, it will be like a short vein. Whatever direction you choose to paint in, continue that direction ahead, okay? Don't go in opposite directions. Now, the outline of it, let's keep it as thin as possible, so that's going to differentiate the 2 leaves from each other also. But at the same time, it gives a very soft outline to the new leaf, okay, that you can continue. And then you just go. Now again, I made the same mistake, if you noticed. Now leaving that white space has created a stark contrast between the 2 leaves, right? I'm leaving that thin white. So what I can do is I can just go over it once with my brush. So automatically I have the difference between the rest of it and the main thing. Now we can do the same outline Creating an outline next to the lightest portion creates like a raised effect. So if you don't want to do that as your leaf, then you don't need to put a darker line. I want to create that raised effect, so I'm going to do that. And I'm doing like a third coat now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly edging the veins to get over earlier. And this technique you can use across watercolor also. It doesn't have to be, it's the same thing in watercolor or in sketch pen if you're going to use it to paint. Okay, I'm going to further make this lighter. Okay, so now I finished these two leaves. I haven't really done this leaf in the same way, so let's just quickly keep it. So I'm adding a little bit of shadow to create the third portion. Okay, done. Now we finish this last leaf on this portion of the potted plant. We do the same thing again. Now I'll show you a different technique, okay? Now say you have painted it. I'm painting the entire leaf together first. Now I'm going to show you the second version, which is we talked about, and you can also try. Now I'm going to create the veins after I created the first set of, yeah, are you following how? I'm just painting around those thin lines, so you can do the same thing. Okay, and then we end. This side of it is a little darker, so I'm just going to go over this side a little bit more, so you can see a slight contrast in the two. Okay, and now again, if you do want to differentiate between this leaf and this leaf a little bit more, you can add a little bit of shadow. Dull out this, so I'll put some more paint on top of it. Now we do the smaller ones below. In this one, this is all shadow, so we'll start with covering up one coat first. Another thing is, now the direction you stroke in also gives the shape. You can also give it the shape that way. This is our center vein. This will be the side vein. Okay, one vein, and then a small vein popping here. Okay, now this part, there's a shadow because of this leaf, so we add a little more, few more coats. Okay, and then this part is the darkest because it's completely hidden away from the sun, the light, not sun. Don't forget to darken your vein also as you darken the rest of the leaf. Now we'll come to this one. We'll shade this a little bit. This has a vein here, but it's not much. See, now I'm doing a cross hatching. Do you see how I mean, not cross hatching, but I painted it in the opposite direction because I didn't plan this as I started, right? I've just gone along and figured out what I want to do. So you can automatically see the stroke difference between the two, which doesn't really make it look too good. So be aware of that. Okay, now this is one vein. This is in between two veins, the portion. Third vein and fourth vein. Okay, but it's a little darker than this side. I'm going to go over it also again. Okay, so you see how it slowly starts to get dark. Okay, now this white portion we don't want, so I'm going to color it in, and I'm going to then distinguish the vein again by going over it. I'm going to make it darker as we discussed. I'm going to try and even the darkness out as compared to the other. Keep aware of that also, be aware of that. This we've not done the veins, but it's not difficult to do the veins really quickly. So you see, I've technically just done all of this mostly using just one color. You don't need a lot of colors, shades. Of course, using different shades can give it a very different look if that's the look you want to go for. It's a completely different feel and look. What I am going to do is just create the shadow, the veins in this by going a little darker, but I'm not exerting too much pressure on my page with my tip. Now I'm going to use another one to create a little bit of shadow on the stalks. Since my light source is this side, as we've recognized by now, my shadow will fall on this side, right? So I'm creating the shadow on that side, and anything it's like is above. So the parts that it touches, I'm just gonna give it a little shadow there, right? In some portions, like this has green, so I'm just gonna put some yellow there. It has veins again, so we're gonna just keep the veins intact and add this. We don't have to do too perfectly. The only thing you need to think of is how are the vein striations created. Okay, so you can just do thin lines in the alternate color. Here it is white, but for me to draw white on this would be far more difficult. So I'm going to do the veins in pink in some places, and I'm going to play with the white and the pink. So yeah, so we'll use this pink to get those tones in. Okay. Doing lines might be a little difficult, so I'm just gonna do, strokes with this side. Like when you're using a medium, you have to honestly make some mistakes and then remember it the next time you're painting to avoid those mistakes, right? I'm using sketch pens after a very, very, very long time. So it's still like, I forget, I'm so used to watercolor and fixing things using water and light portions of the paint, that sometimes I forget when I'm using other mediums. It can be muscle memory. I'll still end up doing the same thing. And yeah, with that we are kind of done. So we use this pink, we use this pink, and we use these two greens and grays. Now you can go ahead and make darker spots in this. You see the contrast immediately, that pop of it, okay? Now if you feel the contrast is too much, add another coat of that. So you see how it kind of blends in a little bit more as compared to a very strong contrast. Slowly leading it into it kind of softens the whole thing. Now how much I can see brown is of course create texture within the pot. So this dots adds the the texture of the soil, and don't let it be one level because that's a little boring. And then you can go ahead and also create shadow within the pot if you want, like how we discussed. Having done that, now I don't have a black sketch pen, but I'm going to use a gray one to show the pot. So just let's do the ridge of the pot around it, okay? And then we do the other ridge of the pot. Okay, now another thing is you could leave this white portion to show your highlight. So I would have to leave a white portion here, but I didn't leave it, so I'm just gonna continue paint everything. I can leave a slight white here to show that ridge. Okay, this will be the darkest portion here because of the shadow, and so would this be. Because it's inside the spot, right? So this all is dark, you can't see what's inside there, and you see the shadow is slowly going to increase from this side to this side overall. Okay, we're going to keep adding to it. Again, I don't have black, so I'm using a gray to create layers. What do you guys think? Let me know. And there you go, that's your nature study. A shadow here, because there is shadow, right? So I'm just gonna do a little bit of shadow here. I think it's a little too stark with this black, so I'm just gonna soften it with a little bit of gray tones around the edges. But can I show you something else? If you do a shadow like that, always add it across, let it go across the whole space and then turn into the darkest portion. You see, like the addition of that one line automatically grounds the whole drawing, right? Okay, so yeah, I hope this has been fun and you learned something new. And if you did, please send this to someone who you think will also enjoy it, and also follow me for more. Oh god, yes, follow me for more. I need to start saying that probably more, but it's up to you, man. You don't have to follow me. There is no compulsion. I'll be posting this for everyone, and y'all can come by whenever y'all want to take a look at it and follow along. But as long as it's helpful, I'll be very happy if it is. That's my only concern, is that this is helping someone. Also, that little ridge I created right now, you saw how I did it? It's just to create that shadow effect again of it continuing. And I kind of like made this also darker. So you don't know how deep the pot is, okay? There are a few things that are off, but it's still a fun way to capture what's in front of you. I feel like maybe I should make this ridge a little more evident of the pot. Okay, Yeah, it's a little fun way to paint and see what's there around you and um, study your environment. And if you do it in the opposite direction, you see how it's starting to look circular, and that's because your strokes are going in the circular direction. It just, all these different techniques are only to add texture to your drawing, to give direction, to give texture. Another way you can add highlights to things, like we miss doing highlights here, is you can add it at the end. It depends on what you're painting. So if you're doing watercolor, I think the best option you have is using gouache to create highlights. I normally tend to use resist, like allocate for the highlights while I'm painting, so I don't have to do it later. Did you struggle with it? Like, I would love to hear more about your your journey. Okay, so I guess till then I'll be seeing you. I should stop or I'll ruin it. Okay, bye. I wanted to show you how the leaves are. So you see the darker portion, the shadows basically. You see the light source and the shadow. Light source, light source. So it's coming from two directions, okay? You can see the shine. That will help you understand where the light source is. And all your darker portions, notice that will be your shadow. You can see shadow through, you see the leaf underneath, it still has shadow coming up. Okay, like the shadow is kind of created because the light is coming from here, this portion. Yeah, look at the depth. So that's what I try to do. The shadow, see your main darkest parts and creating them accordingly. Okay.